Joining me now is Webb County Sheriff Rick Flores and Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar and Rusty Fleming. He's the filmmaker behind the drug wars, the Colombianization of Mexico. Sheriff, I want to start with you. The Zetas are a horrific paramilitary group that is connected with a drug cartel, but there's also something else that nobody wants to talk about. The rumors are that they are now being joined by a Leninist Marxist group that is raising all kinds of terror all the way through Mexico as well. Can you confirm any of this?
The intelligence that we have is that the Zetas are now teaming up with the Cayaviles, who are Guatemalan jungle fighters, and training the Zetas, of course, extending their training because the Zetas are fully trained and they were trained here in the United States. But yes, they're improving and growing in numbers, and we don't see anything in the future that we're going to be able to control. It's just going to get harder.
Rusty, you've been actually sitting down and talking to these people. You're doing a film on the Zetas. What have you found?
Well, Glenn, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, what we found in the 2.5 years that we've been investigating this, these guys are completely the most ruthless killers ever in the narco-terrorism business. They have no compunction about killing women, children, whatever they have to do to get the job done, to protect the loads, and to see it through.
First of all, Sheriff, let me go back to you. Let me just say this, and I'm sorry I didn't say it when we first started. God bless you for what you're doing. Not only are you fighting it every day, but you're coming on national television. There's a lot of people in your community that will not join me on national television. They're afraid.
Well, there's a lot of people that don't want to talk about the subject, you know, and I'm glad that it's finally coming out in the open, because it's a subject that is alive and well, and it's a subject that we need to pay attention to it. And I'm a little concerned over the fact that we've got the Congress looking at sending $1.4 billion to train and professionalize Mexican law enforcement. The corruption has existed for many, many decades. It's embedded in the culture, and there's corruption all the way up to the top, and
Gee, Sheriff,
we're concerned about...
Let me, if I said that, you know what would be said about me? You're a racist.
What?
That sounds like a racist comment. You're saying it's embedded in the...
I can tell you one thing. I can say this, that I applaud and I admire the president, President Calderon, because he's made a lot of changes since he's stepped into the presidency. But it's not something you can change overnight. It's not something you can change in a year. This has been going on for years, years and years. That corruption has existed in Mexico.
Congressman, let me bring you in. I'm sorry to be such a skeptic here on everybody in Washington and everybody in Mexico when it comes to their government and their military and their law enforcement, but I think the majority are weasels. Please tell me you're not for sending $1.4 billion down to Mexico and give them surveillance technology so they can listen in. Are you telling me we really trust these people?
We have to do something, and my option is not to stand around and do nothing. We have to look at the big picture. We have to go to the root of the problem, and there is corruption, there are problems up there, but you got to have a new president, President Calderon, that has taken some very brave and very bold steps to fight this. This is a historic change where Mexico is now asking for assistance. And we got to keep in mind that it's our own self-interest to help them. We help them stop the drugs on the other side. That means there'll be less drugs coming over to the United States.
I got to tell you, though, Congressman, my son asks to watch a movie at 9 o'clock at night, and I tell him, go to bed, you're not watching a movie. You know, sometimes I don't do what people have requested. Sheriff, you know, the congressman says, I want to do something. What should Washington do?
Well, instead of investing money in Mexico, they should start investing money on the U.S. side, on the U.S.-Mexican border, where we need financial assistance to be able to upgrade our departments and hire additional people to put additional boots on the ground. It seems like all the federal funding is going to federal law enforcement agencies. I
got to tell you, just
and
look
let us not forget that any time someone calls 911, who do you think is the one that's responding to that call? It's not Border Patrol. It's not the FBI. It's not CIA or ATF. It's local law enforcement and the Sheriff's Department who are responding to these calls.
Rusty,
and guess what?
Hang on just a second. Let me go to Rusty here for a second. I mean, I look at the sheriff, the background there. I mean, he's sitting there at the sheriff's office. It doesn't really look high-tech. Tell me about the conversation that you had with one of the drug cartels where you said, I need to have 500 pounds of crystal meth come across this border into Dallas. How long is it going to take you? What was the response?
Overnight. And it wasn't 500 pounds, Glenn, it was 500 kilos. I specifically asked him if I wanted those 500 kilos in Dallas tonight, how fast could you get it there? He said they'd be there. They are plenty happy with the system.
You got to understand one.
Hang on, Sheriff. What do you mean they're very happy with the system?
Look, they are so confident in their ability to compromise our system that they don't want any changes. And let me just add one thing. We shouldn't open the door of aid to Mexico, not 1 inch, until the door of the rule of law is opened on that side of the border. Listen, I'm not one bit impressed that Calderon has made all these great attacks against the cartels and made some seizures. Yeah, that's all good. But I can tell you, we need to know where there's 51 of our sons and daughters missing in Mexico. And I guarantee you, you know, there's some answers to be had over there, but they're not giving them to us. And instead of just giving the aid, how about we give the aid, you know, contingent upon some of these answers for some of these missing sons and daughters we have.
Okay. Rusty, thank you very much. Sheriff, Congressman, we're going to be back with you. Hang on, Sheriff. We'll be back with you in just a second. I've got to take a break. We're going to continue our conversation and talk about the Americans that Rusty was just talking about that are the literal casualties of this border. In 60 seconds, we'll be back.